Have you felt distant from this world? Like something is shifting around you but you can't fully explain it? Have you looked at your life recently and realized that what once mattered no longer does? That the people, the places, the routines you used to hold on to are now falling away, almost as if by divine force? If you're feeling this way, there's a reason. And no, you are not imagining things. This message wasn't just uploaded randomly, it was divinely timed. You were led to this very moment because God is about to separate you from everything that no longer aligns with your purpose. What's happening around you is not loss, it's preparation. What's disappearing isn't a punishment, it's elevation. And to those who are spiritually awake, this truth is undeniable. The chosen are being pulled away. Quietly, intentionally, supernaturally. So listen carefully, because what you're about to hear might confirm the very things your soul has been sensing, but your mind didn't dare to say out loud. If your spirit already feels a strange peace in the midst of everything collapsing, if you feel God's hand shifting your path away from the familiar, comment 999 below as a spiritual agreement, not with me, but with heaven. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to Wisdom Ascension. This is where the veil gets lifted, and the hidden is finally revealed. There are moments in your life when everything starts to shift, quietly, mysteriously, and without explanation. Friends begin to distance themselves, people stop calling, doors that once opened easily begin to shut, one after the other. You start waking up with an unfamiliar stillness, as if God Himself has placed a veil between you and the rest of the world. And yet, you feel no fear. Only a strange peace you can't describe. This isn't a breakdown. This isn't isolation. This isn't rejection. This is separation. And it is sacred. When God chooses a vessel for something extraordinary, that soul cannot remain entangled in the ordinary. When your mission on this earth begins to awaken, the atmosphere around you must change. People who once felt like home begin to feel foreign. Environments you once tolerated now feel spiritually toxic. Conversations that once seemed harmless suddenly disturb your spirit. And without even trying, you begin to pull away, not out of pride, but out of necessity. Because when heaven begins to prepare you for divine purpose, it must first remove the distractions, the noise, the compromises, the illusions. You cannot walk in full alignment while still clinging to the very things God is trying to release from your hands. And that's why your world may feel like it's vanishing, slowly but surely. It's not punishment, it's not loss, it's protection. God sees what you don't. He hears conversations you weren't present for. He perceives intentions that never reached your ears. And sometimes His greatest act of love is not what He gives, but what He removes. This removal often feels painful at first, because we as humans become attached to patterns. We build identities around relationships, titles, routines, even traumas. But when God calls a chosen one into alignment, He doesn't ask for permission. He simply begins, silently, sovereignly, perfectly. And He waits to see if you'll recognize what's happening and trust Him anyway. If your life has been slowly detaching from everything you once knew, if your circle is smaller, your voice quieter, your heart clearer, comment, "I trust you, God," below, as a declaration, not of comfort but of courage. Because the more He pulls you away, the closer you're getting to who you really are. Most people fear the feeling of disappearing, of being forgotten, of becoming invisible, of no longer fitting into the life they once knew. But for the chosen ones, vanishing is not the end. It's the beginning of a divine repositioning. It's what happens when heaven starts moving you silently into the place you were truly meant to occupy, away from the noise, the crowds, the expectations, and into sacred alignment. You're not being erased, you're being transformed. You're not being overlooked, you're being concealed. For now. Just like Moses disappeared into the wilderness before returning as a deliverer. Just like Joseph was forgotten in a prison before rising to the palace. Just like Jesus Himself went into the desert before stepping into His earthly mission, so too must you endure this holy hiddenness. In this season, it may feel like you've been muted, like your voice no longer echoes in the places it used to, like people no longer notice your presence. But this quiet is not rejection. It is the sound of heaven rewriting your identity. You are not who you were, and you are not yet who you will be. You are in the space between, the sacred cocoon, where purpose and power are being refined. And because the world doesn't understand what God is doing in secret, it assumes you've disappeared. It sees you withdrawing, stepping back, falling silent, and it thinks you're done. But what it cannot see is that God is setting the stage for something it has never witnessed before. You're not gone. You're being prepared for revelation. When you vanish from one world, it's because you're about to emerge in another. Not as you were, but as who you were always meant to be. If this speaks to what you've been feeling, if you've sensed that you're fading from certain spaces but rising within your spirit, one of the greatest deceptions the enemy has planted in the minds of the chosen is the idea of delay. The whisper that says, "Not yet," that you're not ready, that there's more to learn, that someday eventually you'll become what you were meant to be. But the truth is more urgent than you realize. The time isn't later, it's now. God is not waiting on the world to become better. He is waiting on you to become obedient. The shifting, the separating, the silence, all of it has led you to this moment, where heaven is releasing the final instructions. You're not being called into preparation anymore. You're being called into position. You can feel it in your spirit, the urgency, the stirring, the pull. It's why the things that used to comfort you now feel hollow. It's why the voices you once trusted no longer satisfy your soul. It's why you've lost interest in conversations that don't align with truth. Because your spiritual senses have awakened, and now nothing less than divine purpose will satisfy the hunger inside you. You're not the same. And because of that, your assignment can no longer wait. There's a sound in heaven, a call going out across the earth to every hidden one, every wounded warrior, every quiet intercessor who thought they had been forgotten. That call is not for the masses. It's for the 0.01%, the ones who stayed faithful when no one was watching, the ones who endured silent battles that left invisible scars, the ones who were stripped of everything only to discover they still had their faith. And now God is saying, it is time. Time to rise. Time to speak. Time to walk away from the places that kept you small. Time to step fully into the version of you that was seen by heaven before you were ever formed in the womb. If you've been feeling this urgency, if everything in you knows you can't keep living the same way, comment "I say yes" below as an act of surrender, of agreement, of divine obedience. Because delayed obedience is still disobedience, and the time has already come. Chosen one, you need to understand something that will shift the way you see your entire life. You were never attacked because you were weak. You were attacked because you carry something powerful. From the very beginning, the enemy saw what was inside you, and even when you didn't. And his greatest fear was never who you were, but who you would become if you ever woke up. That's why you were targeted so early. Why your childhood was marked by confusion. Why your relationships were laced with betrayal. Why people turned on you for no reason you could explain. Because your presence disrupts the darkness, even in silence. Many of the people who rejected you weren't reacting to your personality. They were reacting to your light. Your purity disturbed their comfort. Your discernment threatened their deception. Your spirit irritated what was unclean in them. And so, they pushed you away. But what they didn't realize is that in doing so, they were only accelerating your separation. God allowed that rejection to take place so you would stop seeking validation from those who were never assigned to your calling. He allowed you to feel like an outsider so that when your time came, you would have no one to credit but Him. Every loss was strategic. Every silence was sacred. Every betrayal was a hidden blessing wearing the mask of pain. You didn't fall behind. You were being forged. And now, you are rising. Not bitter, but wise. Not hard, but discerning. Not wounded, but awakened. You don't need revenge. You don't need applause. What you need is alignment. because your assignment is greater than the attacks you endured. And the ones who once underestimated you will soon witness the fullness of what God was building in secret. What if I told you that the world you once knew is already gone? That the chapter you've been trying to revive, the people you've been trying to bring with you, the identity you've been trying to maintain, no longer belong to the future God has prepared for you? Would you let go, or would you hold on knowing it would cost your purpose, because this is the moment, the edge, the line that separates what was from what will be? The signs are all around you, the urgency in your spirit, the dreams that feel like messages. The way the noise of this world no longer touches you. It's as if something invisible has been building inside you, calling you away, stripping you down, speaking to you when no one else is watching. You're not imagining it. This is spiritual transition. This is divine migration. The world you once moved in can no longer hold the weight of who you've become. God has been quietly closing doors not to punish you, but to reposition you. Relationships have ended, not because you failed, but because they could not withstand the frequency of your transformation. Opportunities disappeared because they were distractions in disguise. Familiar places now feel foreign because your soul has outgrown them. And while you grieved what you thought was being lost, heaven was rejoicing because it knew what was being born. You were never meant to stay there. You were passing through. You were never meant to be understood by everyone. You were meant to be set apart. You were never meant to shine for approval. You were meant to shine for alignment. And now the calling is becoming too loud to ignore. God is placing you in position. You will begin to see connections forming that make no logical sense, but your spirit will recognize them as divine. You'll be drawn to spaces that feed your soul and repelled by places that dim your light. You'll say no to things you once begged for, and yes to assignments you never expected, because your identity is shifting, not slightly, entirely. And this shift isn't just for you, it's for the lives you are meant to touch. The souls waiting for your obedience, the purpose buried in your presence. You are not being elevated for comfort. You are being positioned for impact. Everything that has happened in your life, the storms, the silence, the stripping, has been leading to this unveiling. Your voice will carry weight. Your presence will release peace. Your obedience will unlock healing in others. And your story will become a key for someone else's prison. So if you feel this truth settling deep in your bones, if you know the old world is closing because a divine mission is calling, there is a reason why God did not expose you too soon, why He allowed you to remain in the background, watching others rise while you waited, why your voice stayed quiet, even when you knew truth, why your gifts remained unseen, even though they burned inside of you. It was never rejection. It was never neglect. It was strategy. Heaven does not release spiritual authority prematurely, and those marked by divine calling must first walk through a wilderness of anonymity, where applause is absent, yet transformation is unavoidable. You were not being ignored. You were being fortified. Because when your name is finally spoken, it won't be to impress. It will be to impact. When your presence enters a room, it won't be to entertain. It will be to shift atmospheres. When your voice rises, it won't be to echo noise. It will be to release truth that shakes foundations. This is why you were hidden, not because you were small, but because what's inside you is too holy to be mishandled. God has been developing in you a weight of glory that cannot be carried by everyone. He has been sharpening your discernment, deepening your compassion, awakening your authority, all behind the veil, far from the spotlight. Because He knows that when you finally emerge, it will not be as a seeker, but as a carrier of what this generation desperately needs. You won't have to explain yourself. Your presence will explain everything. You won't chase opportunities, they will be drawn to the anointing you carry. You won't fear being misunderstood, because those who are truly assigned to your light will recognize it instantly. And when you are revealed, you won't even look like what you've been through. The scars will remain, but they will shine with power, not pain. Your voice will be steady, your steps will be certain, and your past will serve only one purpose: to prove that God never left you. So if you know in your spirit that your time of hiding was never in vain, you were never the loudest in the room. You weren't the one others looked at first. You didn't have the platform, the recognition, or the validation. You often walked through rooms unnoticed, not because you lacked worth, but because heaven was still covering you. There is a kind of person God hides, not to delay them, but to protect them. And if your life has been marked by obscurity, misunderstanding, and inner battles no one ever saw, you may be exactly who heaven has been waiting to raise. Because God is not calling the ones who built their lives on noise. He's calling the ones who were built in silence. You see, the world measures power by appearance, by visibility, by charisma, but the Spirit measures power by depth, by purity, by resilience. And what you've endured in secret, the sleepless nights, the spiritual warfare, the inner fire that wouldn't die no matter how much darkness came. Those things have forged a kind of leader the world doesn't know how to recognize, but God does. The real chosen ones are not the loud performers. They're the ones who wept behind closed doors and still chose to believe. They're the ones who had no one to encourage them, so they learned to hear God's voice for themselves. They're the ones who lost everything and still whispered, "Even now, Lord, I trust you." These are the leaders of the coming age, the hidden ones, the wilderness dwellers, the intercessors, the prophets who don't care for titles, the worshipers who don't need a stage, the healers who walk with nothing but a word from God and a fire in their bones. If you've always felt like the outsider, it's because you were never meant to fit into systems built by men. You were meant to carry something sacred, and that sacredness comes at a cost. God stripped away the noise. He removed the counterfeit voices. He took away the things you thought you needed, because he was making room for what you were truly meant to receive. You thought you were being left behind, but you were actually being held back, because what's inside you couldn't be released until the exact right moment. And now, we are in that moment. God is raising up the invisible ones, the misfits, the quiet warriors, the spiritual exiles, those who said yes without needing a platform, those who kept praying when the heavens seemed silent, those who were attacked for simply carrying a light that exposed the darkness in others. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are the fulfillment of every hidden promise whispered in the dark. You are the vessel God shaped slowly, intentionally, because the mantle you carry is heavy. And now the release is beginning. You will feel the shift in your dreams. You will hear the call in your spirit. Doors will open that were previously bolted shut. People will start appearing in your life who speak your soul's language. The isolation will begin to dissolve, not because you forced anything, but because heaven has sounded the trumpet. It's time. You don't need to fight for recognition. You don't need to explain who you are. You don't need to prove anything. You need only to say yes. Yes to the unfamiliar path. Yes to the new identity. Yes to the authority that has been waiting in your bones. Because God is not calling who the world expects, He's calling you. So if you've lived your life in spiritual hiding, if you know deep inside that you were set apart for something greater, chosen one, if you've listened this far, it means your spirit recognized something that words alone cannot explain. A frequency, a truth, a divine confirmation that everything you've lived, every rejection, every delay, every silent battle, was not the end of your story, but the foundation of your calling. You were not hidden to be forgotten. You were hidden to be forged. You were not overlooked. You were being guarded. And now, the moment has come. This is not just a video. This is a summons. From the throne, from the Spirit, from the realm where your name was spoken long before you were born. God is not asking if you feel ready. He is not waiting for your perfection. He is looking for your obedience. He is waiting for your yes. And He is calling you now. Not tomorrow, not someday. Because the shift has already begun. The world you once belonged to is fading. And a New dimension of purpose is opening before you. The signs, the silence, the storms, they were all preparing you for this awakening, not to become someone new, but to remember who you've always been in the eyes of the divine. So now, chosen one, it is your turn to respond. If your soul felt seen, if your heart burned with truth, if this message found you in a place only God could reach, comment 9999 below as a prophetic seal over your destiny. Let it be written. Let it be witnessed. Let it be a declaration to heaven that you heard and that you are ready. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to Wisdom Ascension, because this is not entertainment. This is spiritual alignment. This is sacred territory. And the journey you've begun here is only the beginning. You are being revealed now, because the world needs your light, and heaven has already marked you. It's time.